Looking back at life, what truly matters? Take a slow, deep breath with me. For just a moment, imagine standing at the very edge of your life, gazing back over every step you've taken. If you could see the entire journey all at once, every year, every season, every heartbeat, what would you notice? Would your path be lined with laughter, purpose, and deep connection? Or would you see stretches of time spent chasing things that, in the end, didn't truly matter? I want to ask you, if today were your last day, what would rise to the surface as most precious? Would it be the promotions you earned, the money you saved, the trophies on your shelf? Or would it be the quiet mornings with a loved one, the warmth with a shared meal, the small moments when you felt truly seen and understood? It's easy, especially in our fast-paced world, to get swept up in the pursuit of status, wealth, and recognition. We spend our brightest years climbing ladders, collecting achievements, and striving for approval, sometimes from people who aren't even paying attention. We tell ourselves that happiness is just around the next corner, waiting for us in the next promotion, the next milestone, or the next shiny purchase. But here's a truth that time itself reveals. Those things we call urgent, the deadlines, the competition, the social validation, are often just illusions. Time has a gentle but relentless way of unraveling our old beliefs, showing us, often too late, that much of what we chased was never really ours to keep. The cars, the titles, the latest gadgets, they fade, they gather dust, and eventually they lose their hold on our hearts. Meanwhile, the real treasures of life are often hiding in plain sight. The sound of laughter shared with a friend, the peace of an early morning, the love of family walking quietly beside you. These are the things that endure. They're not always loud or impressive, but they linger, glowing softly long after everything else falls away. Here's a question worth pondering. Do we really have to wait until the end of our journey to wake up? Is regret the price we must pay for clarity? Or can we, right now, pause and re-examine what matters most, before it's too late? If you've ever felt a quiet ache inside, a sense that something is missing, even when everything looks successful on the outside, you're not alone. Almost everyone at some point feels the gap between what they have and what they truly long for. It's easy to believe that just a little more will finally be enough. But the ancient wisdom of Buddhism gently reminds us, fulfillment is not found in the next thing, or the next title, or the next round of applause. It's found right here, in the way we live each day, in how present we are for the small miracles unfolding in each moment. So what if you could see your life through new eyes, starting now? What if you no longer needed to run after approval, possessions, or perfection, but instead could begin to uncover the beauty, peace, and meaning that have been waiting for you all along? This isn't just wishful thinking. Across thousands of years, Buddhist philosophy has offered profound, practical lessons for waking up to what truly matters. These teachings aren't just for monks in distant monasteries. They're for anyone who wants to live deeply, love fully, and let go of regret. In this video, we're going to explore 12 transformative insights drawn from Buddhist wisdom. Simple truths that, if embraced today, can reshape your life in extraordinary ways. These aren't rules or dogmas. They're gentle invitations to reflect, to slow down, and to notice what you may have overlooked, while hurrying toward the next big thing. So before we go any further, I invite you to pause. Maybe even close your eyes for a moment. Take a breath and ask yourself, what do I want my life to stand for? When I look back, what do I want to remember? Not just what I achieved, but how I lived, how I loved, and how I showed up for the people and moments that truly matter. You don't need to wait for a crisis, a retirement, or a milestone to begin. You can start right here, right now. Because the real gift of wisdom is not in what we know, but in what we choose to do with the time we're given. If you're ready, let's begin this journey together. Let's rediscover what really matters and choose a path of meaning, presence, and joy, starting today. Lesson 1. The Illusion of Status. Let's take another gentle breath together and step deeper into this journey of self-reflection. How often in life have you found yourself reaching for the next title, the next promotion, or some symbol of success, believing that once you arrive, you'll finally feel fulfilled? Maybe it's the impressive job title on your business card, a corner office with your name on the door, or simply that feeling of recognition when others look up to you. We live in a world that seems to equate status with happiness, telling us that our worth is measured by what we accomplish, by how high we climb, or how much we're admired. But have you ever noticed that the goalposts keep moving? You reach one summit, and almost immediately there's another peak on the horizon. One more thing you need to prove, one more achievement to check off before you allow yourself to feel enough. It's exhausting, isn't it? And yet, so many of us spend decades chasing after these moving targets, convinced that fulfillment lies just beyond the next big milestone. Let me share with you the story of Robert. Robert was the kind of person others envied, smart, driven, relentless in his pursuit of success. He started at the very bottom of a large corporation, working long nights, sacrificing weekends and holidays, pouring his heart and soul into climbing that corporate ladder. And he did it. By his late 50s, Robert became the CEO, a title that carried immense weight and commanded respect in every room he entered. People listened when he spoke. Decisions, big and small, rested in his hands. But then, as with all things, the day came when it was time for Robert to retire. There was a ceremony, a plaque with his name on it, and polite applause from the team he'd led for years. And almost overnight, it seemed, the world moved on. New faces filled the offices. Important phone calls and invitations dried up. The recognition that had once been his daily companion was suddenly gone. At first, Robert didn't know what to do with himself. He kept putting on his tailored suits every morning, expecting the rush of meetings and decision-making. But the phone was silent, the calendar was empty, and he felt, perhaps for the first time in his adult life, a profound sense of emptiness. Who was he, if not the boss? What was his value, if not defined by his title? One day, wandering his neighborhood in search of distraction, Robert passed by a small Buddhist temple. On a whim, or maybe out of quiet desperation, he stepped inside. The atmosphere was simple, peaceful. He watched as the monks swept the courtyard, shared gentle words, and went about their day with a calm sense of purpose. Curious, he returned the next morning, and the next. Gradually, he began to join in their meditations, listen to their teachings, and even help sweep leaves from the temple grounds. In that quiet space, stripped of titles and expectations, Robert discovered something he'd missed all those years. His value was never about his position or the power he held. It was in the way he treated others, the small acts of kindness, the wisdom he could share with the younger monks, and the simple joy of being present. He realized that the real legacy we leave behind is not our resume or our trophies, but the positive impact we have on others, the encouragement we offer, and the compassion we share. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that clinging to status, an ever-changing, impermanent thing, only leads to suffering. Status is like a mirage. As soon as you approach it, it shifts and disappears. True fulfillment, the kind that lasts, isn't found in titles, bank accounts, or applause. It's found in the quiet satisfaction of living authentically, helping others, and nurturing our own growth and the growth of those around us. So let me ask you, who are you when the world is silent? If tomorrow your job title vanished, your accolades faded, and no one was watching, what would remain? What qualities would you still carry? What gifts could you still share? Pause for a moment and really let yourself feel this. Maybe, just like Robert, you'll find that your greatest worth is not something you achieve, but something you embody and give away day by day. This is the first of 12 profound lessons we'll explore together, a gentle invitation to let go of the illusion of status and to rediscover the deeper sources of meaning and joy in your own life. Lesson 2. Freedom from social judgment. Let's pause for a mindful breath together. Allow yourself a moment to let your shoulders relax, to simply be present. Now, I'd like to invite you to consider something quietly powerful. How many choices in your life have been shaped not by your own true desires, but by the invisible weight of others' opinions? From the time we're children, we're trained, almost unconsciously, to seek approval. Parents encourage certain behaviors, teachers reward the right answers, and peers set unspoken rules about what's cool or acceptable. Without even realizing it, we often start to sculpt ourselves to fit expectations. Have you ever caught yourself hesitating before sharing your real opinion? Or holding back on a dream because you feared being judged? I know I have, and I think it's something nearly everyone experiences, whether we're aware of it or not. Maybe you picked a safe career instead of following your creative spark. Maybe you dressed a certain way or kept silent about what truly mattered to you just to blend in. For years, so many of us shape our lives like this, carefully editing ourselves, chasing validation, measuring our worth by how others see us. And it's exhausting, isn't it? That constant need to perform can quietly drain the joy out of living. But here's the twist life reveals. As we grow older, we start to see through the illusion. We realize, sometimes with surprise, that most people weren't really thinking about us at all. They were busy wrestling with their own worries, fears, and insecurities. The people we bent over backwards to impress, they're probably more concerned with how they're being perceived than judging anyone else. All those years spent worrying about opinions, years we could have used to grow, to play, to express ourselves authentically. Let me share with you the story of Thomas. For most of his life, Thomas did exactly what was expected of him. He was the dutiful son, the hardworking student, the reliable employee. Every step of the way, he checked the boxes society handed him. He went into law, not because he loved it, but because it seemed impressive. He built a respectable career, bought a nice house in a safe neighborhood, and surrounded himself with friends who admired his polished image. On the outside, Thomas looked like he had it all together, but inside, something always felt off, a quiet longing for something more real. Then, in his late 60s, Thomas attended his high school reunion. At first, he found himself slipping back into that old persona, polite, accomplished, projecting success. But as the night wore on, he noticed something unexpected. No one seemed especially interested in his resume or his polished stories. Some old classmates barely recognized him. Others were so wrapped up in sharing their own concerns about retirement, health, and lost dreams, they barely listened. On his drive home that night, a realization struck Thomas like a flash of lightning. He had spent decades living according to standards set by people who were never truly paying attention. It was a wake-up call. Not long after, Thomas made a radical choice. He stepped down from board memberships that brought him no joy, sold his big house, and moved to a small coastal town. There, he dusted off an old passion he'd tucked away since childhood: woodworking. He started carving delicate figures in his sunlit workshop, not for money or recognition, but for the pure joy of creating. One afternoon, a young traveler admired his work and asked, "Are you a famous sculptor?" Thomas just smiled and said, "I used to be a lawyer, but that was someone else's dream, not mine. This is who I really am." And for the first time in his life, he felt truly free. The Buddhist teaching of no fixed self encourages us to look beyond labels and roles, to recognize that we're not confined by how others see us. True freedom arises when we stop outsourcing our self-worth to the shifting opinions of the crowd and start living from a place of authenticity. So, here's a question to hold in your heart. If no one was watching and you knew you could not be judged, what would you choose to do? How would you live, and who would you become?
Picture, if you will, an elderly woman painting at her kitchen table, her hands stained with color, humming to herself, lost in the joy of creation. She doesn't care if her art hangs in a gallery, she paints for the simple happiness of being alive. That kind of liberation is available to all of us. When we drop the weight of other people's expectations, we make space to hear the quiet truth inside ourselves, the truth of who we really are. Let's carry that spirit forward, together.
Lesson 3. The pointlessness of holding grudges. Let's pause for a gentle breath together. Bring to mind someone or something from your past that still tugs at your heart. A person who hurt you, a memory you wish you could erase. If you feel a weight or a tightness, know that you're not alone. Almost everyone, at some point in life, holds on to old resentments. Sometimes it's a sharp betrayal. Other times, it's a collection of small hurts that quietly pile up over the years. But have you ever noticed how holding on to anger or resentment never really punishes the other person? Instead, it lingers inside us, showing up as stress, anxiety, or a heaviness in the heart. We replay old wounds, telling ourselves that our anger protects us, that it's a shield from future pain. Yet all the while, that very shield keeps us from reaching real happiness, real peace. There's a teaching from the Buddha that says, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. I've always found this image powerful. The coal is our anger, hot and heavy. We clutch it close, convinced that it gives us power or justice. But in reality, we're just burning ourselves. Let me share with you the story of George. For decades, George carried the weight of a painful betrayal. Years ago, he had a close friend, a fellow teacher, someone he trusted deeply. But one day, that friend broke his trust in a way that cut George to the core. From that moment, George vowed never to forgive. Even as life went on, career successes, a loving family, joyful moments, the bitterness never truly left. Whenever he heard his friend's name, he'd feel that old anger rising up, a knot in his stomach that just wouldn't go away. One afternoon, as George sat on his porch, he overheard his grandson shouting during a game, "I'll never forgive you." The words hit George like a wave. He saw his own anger reflected in his grandson's face, so young, already learning to cling to grudges. It was a moment of clarity. Was this the lesson he wanted to pass on? Later that evening, George told his grandson a story. There was once an old man who spent his whole life carrying a heavy sack of stones. Each stone represented a hurt, a slight, an injustice. The man believed that holding on to them made him stronger, but over time, the burden only grew heavier. His back bent, his spirit grew weary, and when he finally realized he could put down the sack, he was near the end of his days. "Don't be like that man," George told his grandson. "Let go before it's too late." That night, George made a decision that changed everything. He picked up the phone and called his old friend. The voice on the other end was older, softer, but instantly familiar. George didn't need an apology or an explanation. He just needed to say, "I forgive you." As he spoke those words, the weight he'd carried for decades seemed to lift. He felt lighter, freer, as if he'd finally set down that heavy sack of stones. Forgiveness is not about excusing bad behavior or pretending that pain didn't happen. It's about reclaiming your own peace. It's the act of freeing yourself from the chains of the past so that you can truly live in the present. In Buddhist practice, forgiveness is a form of compassion. For others, yes, but especially for yourself. Think about it. What might change in your life if you put down even one old grudge? How much space could open up in your heart for joy, for connection, for freedom? Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean, riding your anger in the sand, and watching the tide carry it away, washed clean, gone with the waves. This lesson isn't easy. Forgiveness takes courage and practice. But every time you release resentment, you create a little more room for peace, for happiness, for the life you want to live. So today, I invite you to look gently at any anger you're holding. Ask yourself, is this pain protecting me, or is it just keeping me stuck? What might it feel like to finally let it go? The path to freedom often begins with a single step, a willingness to put down what no longer serves you and to walk forward, lighter and more alive than before. Let's remember, forgiveness is not a gift you give someone else. It's a gift you give yourself. Lesson 4. The emptiness of material possessions. Let's take a mindful breath together and gently look at something most of us wrestle with, our relationship with material things. In our world, it's so easy to believe that happiness is something we can buy. We're surrounded by messages telling us that a new car, a bigger house, or the latest gadget will finally make us feel complete. Maybe you felt it too, that little rush of excitement when you bring home something new, the brief high of a purchase, or the pride of showing off something impressive. For a moment, it feels wonderful, but if we're honest, that feeling always fades, and the cycle starts again. We look for the next thing, and the next, believing that just one more purchase will fill the space inside. But what if it never does? What if the constant chase for more is really just masking a deeper emptiness, a longing that possessions can't actually satisfy? Let me share the story of Henry. Henry grew up poor, and from a young age he made himself a promise. He would never have to worry about money again. He threw himself into his work, often sacrificing sleep, skipping vacations, and putting off simple pleasures, all for the sake of building wealth. By his early 50s, he had achieved what many people only dream of: a sprawling house, a garage full of luxury cars, a bank account that seemed bottomless. But even with all this, Henry couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. His home felt cold, the rooms quiet and empty, despite all the beautiful things he'd filled them with. He noticed that laughter had faded from his life, that friends and family visited less and less. One day, seeking comfort, Henry visited an old friend named Samuel, who had taken a very different path, teaching in a small town, living simply, never having much money, but always surrounded by people who cared about him. As they shared tea in Samuel's tiny kitchen, Henry's eyes wandered to a battered old armchair in the corner. Samuel noticed and smiled. "That chair has seen more joy than all the treasures in your house, my friend. My grandchildren cuddle there while I tell them stories. My wife used to sit there every night, knitting and humming old songs. Friends have laughed and cried in that chair. It's just an old piece of furniture, but it holds more value for me than gold ever could." That night, walking through his silent estate, Henry saw everything differently. The gleaming floors, the pristine furniture, the art on the walls, all were beautiful, but none of them brought him the warmth he'd found in Samuel's tiny home. Over the next few years, Henry started to let go. He sold his mansion and moved into a smaller house where his family felt comfortable gathering. He gave away much of his wealth, funding scholarships and community projects, helping people he would never meet. And in the process, something remarkable happened. Henry felt a lightness and joy he hadn't known in decades. By letting go of the need to possess more, he made room for something far more valuable: connection, meaning, and true happiness. There's a lesson here, rooted deeply in Buddhist philosophy. Buddhism teaches us about impermanence, the truth that everything we own, everything we cling to, will one day fade away. The joy that comes from things is always fleeting, but the joy that comes from relationships, from kindness, from shared experience, that's the kind that endures. So, I invite you to ask yourself, what are the things in your life that truly matter? When you look back years from now, will you remember the cars, the gadgets, the clothes? Or will you remember the laughter around the dinner table, the time spent with loved ones, the ways you helped others, and the ways they helped you? Imagine an elderly woman in a simple kitchen, stirring a pot of soup while her grandchildren chatter around her. She may not have diamonds or designer clothes, but she is rich in love and memories.
That is the kind of wealth that lasts. Maybe it's time to let go of the chase and start cherishing what can never be bought or sold. What if true abundance is measured not by what we accumulate, but by what we give away and by the love we share?
Lesson 5. The Trap of Perfectionism. Let's pause for a soft breath together. If you can, close your eyes for just a moment and imagine one dream or passion you've quietly carried in your heart. A book you want to write, a song you want to sing, a journey you hope to take. Now, ask yourself, what has held you back? How many times have you told yourself, "Not yet, I'm not ready. Maybe when things are just a little more perfect." Perfectionism can be so seductive. It whispers that if we just wait a little longer, learn a little more, practice a little harder, someday everything will align and we'll finally be ready to act. But here's the gentle truth. Perfect is a moving target. The more we chase it, the further it drifts out of reach. And while we're waiting for the stars to align, life quietly passes us by. I've seen it time and again, and maybe you have too. We put off sending that letter, starting that project, sharing our ideas, or even simply reaching out to someone we care about. We fear making mistakes or being judged for a work in progress. So we wait for the right time, believing we'll act when conditions are flawless. But the reality? That moment almost never comes. Let me share the story of Eleanor. All her life, Eleanor dreamed of writing a novel. She loved stories, devoured books as a child, kept notebooks full of ideas. Yet whenever she sat down to write, she'd tell herself she needed more time, more knowledge, a better outline, the perfect opening sentence. Year after year, life got busier. Opportunities slipped away. Unfinished manuscripts collected dust in her drawer. Deep down, she carried a quiet sadness for the stories she'd never shared. Then, in her 70s, something shifted. Eleanor was inspired by the memory of a dear friend who had always wanted to travel to Italy, but kept postponing. Maybe next year, her friend used to say. But one day, next year never came. That loss woke something inside Eleanor. She realized that if she kept waiting for the perfect moment, she'd never start at all. So she picked up her pen, not to write a masterpiece, but just to write. The words weren't always polished. The sentences sometimes stumbled. But as she allowed herself to simply begin, she felt alive in a way she hadn't in decades. Later, at a family gathering, her granddaughter invited her to dance. Normally, Eleanor would have hesitated, worried about looking silly. This time, she took her granddaughter's hand, stepped onto the dance floor, stumbled, laughed, and felt wonderfully, beautifully alive. There's a powerful lesson in Buddhist philosophy called wabi-sabi, the acceptance of imperfection and impermanence. Life is not meant to be flawless. It is meant to be lived fully and honestly, in all its messy, beautiful, and unpredictable glory. The chipped teacup, the off-key song, the unfinished story. These are not failures. They are living proof that we dared to create, to try, to be human. Perfectionism, in truth, steals more from us than failure ever could. It keeps us waiting at the sidelines of our own lives. It turns potential joy into regret. The masterpiece isn't the goal. The real beauty is in showing up and participating, in living the story, not just planning it. So let me ask you, what is one thing you've been waiting to do, hoping for the perfect moment? What would happen if you just started now, exactly as you are? Could you embrace the possibility of mistakes, the messiness of beginning, the beauty of simply showing up? Imagine an artist staring at a blank canvas, afraid to make the first stroke. Now picture another who lets color spill freely, joyful in the act of creation, unafraid of the outcome. Which one truly lives? You don't have to wait. Life is happening right now. The courage to begin, the willingness to be imperfect, is itself an act of beauty and liberation. As we continue our journey together, may we all find the courage to start, to stumble, to dance, to write, to live. Not when we're perfect, but because we're beautifully human. Lesson 6. The Fleeting Nature of Time. Let's pause here together, just for a moment, and take a deep, gentle breath. Imagine you could reach out and hold time in your hands. Feel each moment as it slips softly through your fingers. If only life worked that way. If only we could store away extra hours for the days when we need them most, or save a special moment for when we're finally ready to enjoy it. But the truth is, time moves forward, quietly, relentlessly. We tend to believe we have plenty of it. We tell ourselves that dreams can wait, that opportunities will return, that there will always be more time to reconnect with someone we love, to learn a new skill, or to start again. Someday, we promise ourselves. Later, we say. But life rarely waits for us to be ready. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, "I'll get to that tomorrow," or "I'll pursue my passion when the timing is right"? I know I have. It's comforting to believe that time is abundant, that we can postpone what truly matters until our schedules clear up, or when the kids are grown, or when we finally retire. But each day slips quietly into the past, and those precious chances can vanish before we even notice. Let me share with you the story of Arthur. From a young age, Arthur had a deep love for music. He dreamed of learning the piano, of one day composing a song that would capture the feelings he could never quite put into words. But there was always something else demanding his attention: work deadlines, family responsibilities, bills to pay. Next year, he told himself, when things settle down, I'll start. But as the years rolled by, next year became the year after that, and then another and another. By the time Arthur was 75, his hands were no longer as nimble as they once were. The old upright piano in his living room had gathered dust, a silent witness to dreams deferred. One evening, his granddaughter visited, excitedly talking about her violin lessons and how alive music made her feel. She asked Arthur if he'd ever played. For the first time, he admitted his old wish. Her response was so simple, so wise. "Why don't you start now, Grandpa? You still have today." That night, long after she left, Arthur sat down at the piano. His fingers moved clumsily, uncertain. The melody wasn't perfect, but it was real, it was alive. And as he played, he realized something profound. He could not reclaim the years he'd lost, but he still had this moment. And this moment was everything. Buddhist teachings remind us of the impermanence of all things, especially time. Every breath, every heartbeat, every sunrise is unique and unrepeatable. We are not promised another day, another chance, another reunion. The only time that truly belongs to us is this present moment. Imagine an old woman sitting by a rainy window, thinking about a friend she always meant to visit, a letter she never sent, a dream she always postponed. The rain falls, the world moves on, and the chance slips away quietly, forever. There's a gentle ache in realizing that the future is never guaranteed. So what does it mean to live with this awareness? It doesn't mean rushing or anxiously trying to do everything at once. It means cherishing now. It means making the phone call, saying I love you, picking up the hobby, or simply pausing to notice the sunlight streaming through your window. It means recognizing that the most precious gift you have isn't hidden in the future. It's right here, in your hands, in your heart, in this very breath. Let me ask you, what is one thing you keep postponing for later? Is there someone you've been meaning to reconnect with? A passion you've left on the shelf? What might shift in your life if you gave yourself permission to start, not someday, but now? You don't need a perfect plan or unlimited time. All you need is a willingness to be present, to say yes to this day, this hour, this moment. The smallest step taken today is worth more than the grandest intention postponed for tomorrow. As we move through this journey together, may we all remember, time is a precious, fleeting companion. Let's treasure each moment, live with intention, and turn our some days into todays, before they quietly slip away.
Lesson 7. Health is the greatest wealth. Let's pause for a gentle, nourishing breath. I want to invite you to tune into your body for a moment. Feel your heartbeat, the rise and fall of your breath, the quiet strength in your hands. Our bodies are our constant companions, carrying us through every joy and struggle of our lives. Yet so often, we treat health as an afterthought, something we'll pay attention to later, after the work is done and the goals are achieved. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to sacrifice your well-being for success? Maybe you've skipped meals to meet a deadline, traded sleep for another hour of work, or brushed aside pain, telling yourself you'll rest when things settle down. Our culture tends to reward this kind of sacrifice, celebrating late nights at the office, praising hustle, admiring those who push through exhaustion. But what is the real cost? There's a saying in Buddhist teaching, "The body is the foundation of the path." Without health, even the greatest dreams become out of reach. It's only when illness or fatigue sets in that many people realize, often too late, that everything else in life depends on this precious, fragile vessel we inhabit. Let me share with you the story of Richard. Richard was always on the move, chasing big goals and bigger numbers. He built a thriving business from scratch, worked long hours, flew from city to city, and prided himself on outworking everyone. His achievements were impressive, and he believed that the grind was worth it. There would be time to slow down, eventually. Then, at age 72, Richard found himself sitting in a doctor's office, hearing words he'd never prepared for. His heart was weak. His blood pressure was dangerously high. The doctor spoke softly but directly. "Richard, your body can't keep this pace any longer. The time to take care of yourself is now, or you may not have as much time as you think." Suddenly, all the deals, awards, and accolades faded into the background. The luxurious home, the fine wine collection, the applause, none of it could buy back the simple pleasure of walking in the park or a pain-free morning. Richard returned home to a grand house, but found it empty and silent. The true cost of his relentless pursuit became heartbreakingly clear. Buddhist wisdom teaches mindfulness of the body, reminding us to honor our physical selves with care, awareness, and respect. Our bodies are not machines to be driven until they break. They are sacred, living beings that deserve compassion and attention. So what does it mean to cherish your health? Sometimes it's as simple as choosing nourishing food, listening when you need rest, or taking a walk outside to feel the sun on your face. It can be setting boundaries around work, asking for help when you need it, or embracing the joy of movement, whatever that looks like for you. Imagine an elderly woman tending her garden, her hands strong from years of digging, planting, and harvesting. She never owned great riches or chased after endless achievement. Instead, she cared for her body, moved with intention, ate simply, and now at 80, she greets each day with energy and gratitude. Her wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the freedom of a healthy, vibrant life. Let's pause for a moment of reflection. What does health mean to you? Not just the absence of illness, but the feeling of aliveness and energy. When was the last time you thanked your body for all it does? What gentle changes could you make today to support your well-being, not just for tomorrow, but for the rest of your journey? If you've been waiting for the right time to start caring for yourself, let this be your invitation. Health is not something to postpone. It is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Without it, even the grandest fortunes lose their meaning. As we move forward together, may we learn to treat our bodies as wise teachers and trusted friends, worthy of care, rest, and gratitude. Remember, true wealth is not stored in the bank, but in every step you take, every breath you draw, every sunrise you greet with energy and joy. Let's honor the greatest treasure we have, our health, while we are still blessed with it.
Lesson 8. Relationships matter more than achievements. Let's slow down for a moment and take a deep, grounding breath together. As we travel through life, it's so easy to become consumed by the drive to succeed. We chase after achievements, climb career ladders, fill our calendars with goals and deadlines. Society tells us this is the way to live fully, to be respected, to leave a mark. But how often do we pause to ask, what are we sacrificing along the way? Many of us, myself included, have believed that there would always be time to catch up with loved ones. We reassure ourselves that we'll reconnect with family after this project is done or see old friends once things settle down. But the truth is, time with those we care about isn't a guarantee. It's a gift. And sometimes that gift slips quietly through our fingers while we're busy chasing what we think is important. Let me share the story of John. John was ambitious from the start, a natural leader, always striving for the next promotion, the next big win. He built a career that others envied. His name was on the door, his achievements celebrated in meetings and magazines. But behind the scenes, something precious was quietly fading. John's wife often waited up for him, hoping they could share a meal or simply talk about their days. His children grew up learning to be independent, not because he taught them, but because he was so often away. Friends' invitations gradually stopped coming. Everyone assumed he was too busy. John always told himself that he was doing it all for his loved ones, that one day when he reached his goals, he'd finally have time to give back to them. Just a little longer, he'd say, then I'll slow down and make it up to everyone. But life doesn't always wait for our plans. One evening, after decades of relentless pursuit, John received a call that stopped him in his tracks. His oldest friend, the one he'd always meant to catch up with but never quite managed to call, had passed away unexpectedly. In that moment, John felt a weight settle in his chest. He scrolled through his phone, looking at unread messages, missed calls, photos from years past. He realized that he'd been present for so many achievements, but absent from countless moments that truly mattered. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the impermanence of all things, especially relationships. The people we love will not always be there. The moments we postpone may never come again. Success can bring comfort, but it cannot replace the warmth of connection, the healing of a hug, or the laughter shared over a simple meal. So, what does it mean to live a life rich in connection? Sometimes it's about showing up, even when you're tired or busy. It's taking the time to call a friend, to sit with a family member without distractions, to say, "I love you" before you leave in the morning. It's being present, truly present for the people who matter most. Imagine an elderly woman sitting at a dinner table, looking at the empty chair where her husband once sat. She may have believed for years that there would always be more time for trips together, for words left unspoken, for simple moments of togetherness. Now the memories remain, but the chance to make new ones is gone. John's story is a reminder for all of us. Achievements fade, but love remains. What we build with our hearts, not our hands, is what endures. The legacy we leave is measured not by what we own or accomplish, but by the lives we've touched, the kindness we've shared, the memories we've created with those we love. So I invite you to pause and reflect. Who have you been meaning to reach out to? What connection have you put on hold, waiting for the right time? What would it feel like to prioritize relationships over accomplishments, even just for today? True wealth is found in the company we keep, in the stories we share, in the love we give and receive. Let's not wait until it's too late to cherish what truly matters.
Lesson 9. Happiness comes from within. Let's take a soft, mindful breath together. In the stillness of this moment, I invite you to ask yourself, where have you been searching for happiness? If you're like most of us, maybe you've looked for it in achievements, new experiences, recognition, or the next exciting purchase. Our culture constantly sends us the message that happiness is just around the corner. One goal, one relationship, one upgrade away. We tell ourselves, if only I get that promotion, buy that house, or find the right partner, then I'll finally be happy. Yet for so many people, the finish line keeps moving. Each milestone brings a short-lived thrill, and then we find ourselves looking for the next thing, convinced that fulfillment lies somewhere out there, just beyond reach. But what if true happiness has been much closer all along, quiet, unassuming, hidden in plain sight? What if it isn't about having more, achieving more, or being more, but about awakening to the richness of the present moment? Let me share with you the story of Margaret. For much of her life, Margaret measured happiness by her accomplishments and possessions. She worked hard, built a successful career, and made sure her family had all the comforts she never had growing up. Her home was beautiful, her vacations enviable, her achievements recognized. Still, on quiet nights, Margaret sometimes felt a sense of emptiness she couldn't quite explain, a subtle longing for something deeper, more lasting. One year, feeling restless, Margaret traveled to Japan and visited a small Buddhist monastery nestled in the mountains. The monks there lived simply, with few belongings and no obvious status or wealth. Yet what struck Margaret most was the radiant joy and peace in their eyes. She was curious, how could they be so content with so little? During her stay, one monk invited her to share a cup of tea. As they sat together in silence, the monk asked, "Are you enjoying this tea?" Margaret smiled and said yes. The tea was warm, fragrant, and soothing. The monk nodded and replied gently, "You've just experienced happiness, not from what you possess, but from how present you are in this moment." That simple exchange planted a seed in Margaret's heart. She realized that so much of her life had been spent chasing moments, always moving, always striving, rarely stopping to appreciate the simple joys right in front of her. The morning sunlight, the laughter of her children, the quiet of a rainy day, the comfort of a friend's embrace. When she returned home, Margaret began to practice mindfulness. She slowed down to really taste her morning coffee, to listen deeply to the people around her, to notice the beauty in ordinary days. Gradually, the emptiness faded, replaced by a quiet, enduring contentment. Happiness, she discovered, was not something to be found in the outside world, but a way of being, a capacity to be fully alive and open to each experience. Buddhist philosophy reminds us that the root of suffering is often the belief that happiness depends on something we lack. The truth is, the joy we seek is already within us, waiting to be noticed, nurtured, and shared. It lives in the present, not in the past or future. So let me ask you, what small joy is available to you right now in this very moment? Is it the sound of birds outside your window, the warmth of your hands, the kindness of a stranger, the feeling of your own breath? What would shift if you stopped searching out there and started paying attention to what's right here? Imagine an old man sitting in a park, feeding pigeons and smiling quietly to himself. He has no fortune or fame, but he is deeply at peace, content with the simple pleasures of life. Like Margaret, he knows that happiness doesn't need to be chased. It can be chosen, again and again, by being fully present. As we walk this path together, may we remember, happiness isn't a distant goal. It's a gentle invitation to return to ourselves, to this moment, and to the simple wonder of being alive.
Lesson 10. The Value of Gratitude. Let's take a mindful breath together and gently bring our attention to this moment. I invite you to pause and notice. What is one small thing you are grateful for right now? Maybe it's the warmth of sunlight on your face, the quiet hum of your home, or the simple comfort of a deep breath. So often, we move through our days focused on what's missing, what's next, or what could be better. But what if the doorway to peace is found in appreciating what's already here? Gratitude isn't just a nice sentiment, it's a powerful practice that can transform the way we experience life. In Buddhist philosophy, gratitude is seen as fertile soil for contentment and joy to grow. When we nurture thankfulness, even for the ordinary and imperfect, we naturally shift our attention from lack to abundance. The mind settles, the heart softens, and life becomes richer, not because everything is perfect, but because we are more present to its gifts.
Let me share a simple story. There was once an elderly man who lived alone in a small, sunlit cottage at the edge of town. His days were quiet, sometimes a little lonely. Yet each morning he would open his window, close his eyes, and stand perfectly still, feeling the golden rays of sunlight wash over his face. He would listen for the gentle rustle of leaves, the laughter of children playing in the distance, or the cheerful song of a bird perched on a nearby branch. Neighbors sometimes wondered how he found happiness in such a simple life. When asked, he would smile and say, "Every day I receive gifts. The warmth of the sun, the whisper of the wind, the dance of shadows on my wall. I don't own much, but I am rich in moments." His secret wasn't luck or circumstance. It was the practice of noticing and of saying thank you, again and again, for everything, big or small. Even on days when his body ached or when the world felt heavy, he searched for something to appreciate, a memory, a friendly face, a favorite song. In this way, he nourished his spirit and found peace regardless of what was happening outside. Modern research now echoes what Buddhist teachers have said for centuries. Gratitude can actually rewire our brains, making us more resilient, optimistic, and compassionate. It's not about ignoring hardship or pretending life is always easy. It's about choosing to focus on the goodness that still exists, especially when times are tough. Ask yourself, what do you take for granted most days? Is it running water, fresh air, the ability to move your body, the love of a pet, a hot cup of coffee, or simply waking up to another day? These everyday blessings are easy to overlook until, perhaps, we lose them. Practicing gratitude helps us treasure them while we still have them. Here's a gentle exercise you can try. Each evening, before you go to sleep, think of 3 things, no matter how small, that brought you joy, comfort, or a sense of wonder that day. Maybe it's the smile of a stranger, the scent of rain, or a quiet moment of rest. If you like, write them down. Over time, you may notice your heart opening, your worry softening, and your appreciation for life deepening. From a Buddhist perspective, gratitude is closely linked with mindfulness. When we are truly present, we begin to see that every moment is a miracle. The rising and falling of the breath, the turning of the seasons, the unfolding of a flower, the kindness of a friend. The more we notice, the more gratitude grows, and the more we become aware of how interconnected and supported we really are. So I invite you, right now, to pause and look around. What are 3 things in this very moment that you can offer thanks for? Let gratitude fill your heart, even for the simplest of gifts. Imagine an elderly woman sitting by her window, closing her eyes and smiling as the sunlight dances across her face. The breeze stirs her hair, and birds sing their morning song. She feels happiness well up inside, not because she has everything she wants, but because she is fully present and grateful for everything she already has. Gratitude is a quiet revolution. It changes how we see, how we feel, and how we live. May we all remember to give thanks, not just for the big things, but for the countless small miracles that fill our days.
Lesson 11. The importance of mindfulness. Let's pause here for a gentle breath, a breath you truly notice. Feel the cool air enter your nose, your chest rising, your shoulders softening as you exhale. This simple act of paying attention right now is the essence of mindfulness. In our busy world, the mind often feels like a restless traveler. It jumps from memories of the past to worries about the future, rarely settling in the only place life actually happens, the present moment. How many times have you caught yourself rehashing an old argument while driving to work, or making mental lists while sharing a meal with loved ones? We all do it. Our thoughts scatter in 1,000 directions, and with them, so does our sense of peace. But what if, just for today, you could live each moment more fully? What if you could step out of autopilot and actually experience your life? Every breath,
every sensation, every interaction, just as it is. Mindfulness, a core teaching in Buddhism, is simply the art of being here now. It's about awakening to the present, instead of letting life slip by while we're distracted by what was or what might be. When we practice mindfulness, we don't try to control or suppress our thoughts. We simply become aware of them, noticing where our attention goes and gently guiding it back to now. Imagine, for a moment, sitting down to a meal. Not scrolling your phone or watching TV, but truly tasting each bite. You notice the aroma, the flavors, the way the food feels in your mouth. Eating becomes a sacred act, nourishing both body and spirit. Or picture yourself in conversation with a friend, listening not just to their words, but to the emotions behind them, the subtle changes in their voice, the light in their eyes. You're not planning your response. You're simply there with them, fully present. In these moments, connection deepens and life feels richer. Let me share a story. When I first started practicing mindfulness, it was through something as simple as mindful breathing. I would set aside a few minutes each day just to sit quietly and notice my breath. At first, my mind raced, lists, memories, worries. But gradually, as I brought my focus gently back to my breath, I noticed a shift. The noise in my head softened, my body relaxed. Even just 5 minutes brought a calm that stayed with me throughout the day. Scientific studies now show what Buddhist monks have known for centuries. Mindfulness reduces stress, boosts mood, and even improves physical health. It doesn't mean you'll never feel anxious or sad again. These are part of being human. But mindfulness gives you a way to meet these feelings with compassion and presence, instead of being overwhelmed by them. So, how can you bring mindfulness into your own life? It doesn't require a mountain retreat or hours of meditation. It can be as simple as taking 3 conscious breaths before answering an email, savoring your morning coffee instead of rushing through it, or pausing to really hear the laughter of someone you love. When walking, feel the ground beneath your feet. When eating, taste the food. When listening, give your full attention. One of my favorite mindfulness practices is a 1-minute pause. Whenever the day feels overwhelming, I just stop, right where I am, and pay close attention to my breath for 60 seconds. It's like pressing a reset button for my mind. Remember, the present moment is the only time we truly have. The past is gone, the future isn't here yet. Each time you come back to now, you reclaim a little more of your life. Let me ask you, what might shift for you if you lived this day a little more mindfully? How might your relationships, your work, your sense of self change if you brought your full presence to each experience? Picture a family gathering where everyone puts away their phones and simply enjoys a meal together, laughing, sharing, really listening. Or imagine taking a mindful walk, noticing the play of sunlight on the leaves, the rhythm of your breath, the world coming alive in small, beautiful details. Mindfulness is not about escaping life, but about showing up for it, just as it is, with open eyes and an open heart. In doing so, we find more peace, more clarity, and more joy. So today, may you find small moments to pause, to breathe, and to come home to yourself. Life is here, waiting for you, in this breath, this moment, now. Lesson 12. The Power of Compassion. Let's take a gentle breath together. As you exhale, imagine releasing any tension you're carrying, softening into this present moment. Today, I'd like to invite you to reflect on a quality that has the power to transform not just our relationships with others, but the way we experience our own lives: compassion. Compassion, or loving kindness, isn't just a virtue to admire from afar, it's a living, breathing practice. In Buddhist philosophy, compassion means more than feeling sympathy for someone's suffering. It's the deep, heartfelt wish to relieve that suffering, coupled with a willingness to act. And here's something truly remarkable. When we offer compassion to others, we also begin to heal and transform ourselves. Maybe you've noticed this in your own life. Have you ever reached out to help someone in need? Maybe a friend going through a tough time, a stranger at the grocery store, or a coworker who seemed overwhelmed. In those moments, even as you're giving something away, your time, your attention, your kindness, you often feel a surprising sense of warmth and peace blossoming inside your own heart. Let me share an example. There's a story of a man who, after losing his job and feeling utterly defeated, decided to volunteer at a local food bank. At first, he thought he was simply giving back. But over time, he realized that each act of kindness, listening to someone's worries, serving a warm meal, sharing a smile, was actually bringing him a deep sense of connection and healing. His problems didn't magically disappear, but his heart grew softer, his outlook brighter. Through helping others, he found a new strength within himself. Buddhist teachers remind us that compassion doesn't just benefit the receiver, it transforms the giver. When we choose to meet anger with patience or respond to someone's pain with empathy, we loosen the grip of resentment and judgment in our own minds. Compassion softens our inner critic and helps us see the humanity in everyone, including ourselves. Think about a time when you forgave someone who hurt you, or when you went out of your way to support a struggling friend. Maybe you offered a listening ear, wrote a thoughtful note, or simply sat beside someone in silence. How did that act affect your own heart? Did you feel lighter, more connected, or perhaps a quiet sense of peace? Modern science now backs up what ancient wisdom has taught for centuries. Practicing compassion reduces stress, increases our sense of happiness, and even strengthens our immune system. It's a powerful medicine, freely available, that can heal wounds we often carry for years. But what does compassion look like in everyday life? Sometimes it's as simple as offering a genuine smile to a stranger, being patient with someone who's having a tough day, or choosing to let go of a small grudge rather than holding on to anger. Compassion can be forgiving a mistake, our own or someone else's, or volunteering our time to help those who need it most. There's a beautiful ripple effect to compassion. One small act can inspire another, and soon a whole community is uplifted. A single kind gesture can brighten a day, heal a rift, or give someone hope when they need it most. And the more we practice compassion, the more natural it becomes, like a muscle that grows stronger with use. So, let me ask you, who in your life could use a little extra kindness right now? Is there someone you've been holding a grudge against, or someone who might need your forgiveness? How might your own heart feel if you chose, just for today, to respond with compassion rather than criticism? Imagine a world where we all paused to recognize the humanity in each other, where we offered a helping hand instead of turning away, where we chose empathy over judgment. This world starts with a single choice, your choice in this moment. As we close, I invite you to set a gentle intention. Find one way today to practice compassion. It might be small, it might be silent, but it will matter. And as you do, notice how your own sense of peace and connection grows. Compassion is the key that unlocks not just the hearts of others, but your own as well. May you walk through your days with a gentle heart, spreading kindness wherever you go. Because in the end, the true power of compassion is not just what it gives to others, but what it awakens within us all.
The gift of awareness. Let's take one last mindful breath together. If you pause for a moment and look back at your life, you might notice something both beautiful and bittersweet. Time is an extraordinary teacher, but also an unforgiving one. It quietly carries us forward day by day, never offering us a chance to turn back and relive the moments we missed or redo the choices we regret. But here's the miracle. You don't have to wait until the end of your journey to wake up to what truly matters. You don't need to reach a breaking point, a milestone birthday, or a life-altering event to start living more deeply. Every single moment, yes, even this one, is an invitation to choose awareness, gratitude, and love. The real treasures in life aren't found in possessions, titles, or outward success.
They live in the everyday acts of kindness, in the warmth of connection, in the ability to be truly present with yourself and with others. Eternal values like love, compassion, gratitude, mindfulness, and authentic connection, these are what endure long after everything else has faded. Maybe, as you've listened to these lessons, you've recognized your own life somewhere in the stories. Maybe you've noticed the pull of ambition, the ache of regret, or the simple longing to be seen, known, and loved. Please know this: you are not alone. We are all walking this winding path together, learning, stumbling, and awakening as we go. The greatest gift you can give yourself and the people you love is to live with your eyes, heart, and mind open. Don't wait for a tomorrow that may never come. Don't let regret become the final chapter of your story. Instead, choose to be fully alive right now. Cherish what you have, tell people you love them, notice the beauty that surrounds you, and offer your kindness generously. Practice gratitude, presence, and compassion, not as distant ideals, but as daily habits that shape your world from the inside out. It's easy to think that big changes require big gestures, but often it's the smallest acts of mindfulness and love that make the deepest impact. A gentle word, a heartfelt thank you, a moment of true listening, these are the seeds that grow into a life of meaning and joy. So, as we bring this journey to a close, I invite you to reflect. What is one simple way you can bring more awareness, gratitude, or kindness into your life today? Maybe it's sharing a story with someone you care about, savoring your morning coffee, forgiving an old hurt, or simply taking a quiet moment for yourself. Every choice matters. Every breath is a new beginning. If these reflections have resonated with you, please don't keep them to yourself. Share this video, share these lessons, and help create a ripple of presence, love, and wisdom in your community. Together, we can build a world where more people wake up to what really matters, where we choose meaning over distraction, connection over comparison, and love over regret. Thank you for being here, for opening your heart, and for walking this path of awareness alongside me. Let's continue to learn, to grow, and to live each day with intention. Because the greatest gift is not in the years we are given, but in how fully we show up for each precious moment. If you'd like to continue exploring these teachings, consider subscribing, joining our community, or sharing your own story in the comments below. Let's keep this circle of wisdom and compassion growing, one mindful step at a time. Until next time, may you live each day awake, grateful, and deeply alive.